Fatih Sultan Mehmet Vakıf Üniversitesi. Tarihin derinliklerinden bilim ve sanatın ufuklarını.
Make an observation. I think Brother Recep at the beginning gave a good example about the conquer of Istanbul. That without that Christian technician, probably Fatih wouldn't be able to build, I think, the ammunition or the things that he needed to conquer Istanbul, all the big cannons there. And I think there is a little message saying that if let's say you want to succeed something big, you have to involve the whole humanity. As Muslim only, or as this, as that, you cannot have global, I think, objectives. If your aim is globe, then you have to involve the entire globe. And right now I think the West is very successful, but actually they did the same thing. They involved the Muslims. And I think a good part of their strength is Muslims. They did not say that, oh, we are leaving Muslims out, we just with ourselves as Americans, Germans, or whatever. Those who took that road, they failed. But those who were, I think, encompassing, they succeeded. Since our goals are here, major, certainly I think we should look at this example there. Anyway, let me see. Wrong button.
En üstteki hocam ileri gelin.
Okay. Okay. Now, Alparslan gave us the philosophical aspect of R&D. Now I'll give the material aspect. As it is seen from the West and the material fruits of things. Now, to put things in the perspective, if you look at the history, the world was an agricultural society. The measure of wealth was agriculture. And in 1712, we have the invention of steam engine. Then we started, I think, the factories, industry, etc. So we were in the industrial age. So the whole world really changed. And 1948, we have the invention of transistors. So we have another change, major change there, knowledge. So the world was first agricultural society, then industrial society, and right now knowledge society. Everything is based on knowledge, and knowledge is, in a sense, a measure of power there. Things are changed. And to give some examples, this is from the World Bank. Korea and Ghana, they started in 1950s or 60s, same place. Korea invested in knowledge, science and technology. Ghana didn't, and you can see the results, GDP, one is a sixfold of the other. Again, this is the result of knowledge society. If you look at the products, the high and medium technology products, you can see in 20 years, the fraction changed from 33% to 54%. So the high value added products are high technology products, and this is the, I think, the measure of wealth and the measure of prestige. And we have information explosion. It took 1750 years for the information to double for the first time, but right now information doubles every 4 years, and that probably every 3 years. So we have huge generation of information, and unless you are in a dynamic environment and you are creating knowledge, absorbing it through R&D, then you are left behind. And if you look at the companies, this is S&P 500 in the US. In 1975, the tangible property of those companies were what? 83%. That is, if the company declared bankruptcy and sold the machines, land, whatever, they would get 83% of what they own. But right now, let's say 2010, it's only 20%. That is now the real property is intellectual property. Now imagine right now the Microsoft or Apple, you know, whatever. If there's, I mean, let's say Apple is worth $500 billion. If let's say you sell everything they own, the land, buildings, whatever, really worth nothing. But the patents, really it is worth a lot. So I think right now this again, the information age, the value of intellectual property. And if you look at the cross-border licensing and royalty income, In 1970, it was nothing, $3 billion. 2009, $180 billion. So now people are selling knowledge. Not even selling, licensing. That is letting them to use. And you can see the big money is involved there. So right now, the patents. The patents are a sign of wealth and prestige. And look at the companies. Last year, we took most number of patents. Let's say IBM, 6,000 and some. And look at the companies. They are the companies that we know. On the right, look at the countries. Again, no surprises there. You know, US, Japan, Korea, that's it. They kind of dominate. Now, that means these countries dominate the science and technology. So they dominate the world. Let's say IBM. Only for licensing, IBM made $1 billion last year. Just letting people use their technology. Oops, let's go back. And look at also the global scale here. 30% of the patents, they come from overseas. That is, IBM cannot do it itself. And also in the US, many workers of IBM, scientists, they are also foreigners, Muslims, whatever. So this is truly a global world there. And also the wars. We have the classic wars, now we have IP wars. You can see, let's say, the war between Samsung and Apple, and then let's say a university. It is awarded like Carnegie Mellon $1 billion for patent infringement case there. So right now this is the kind of wars that we are having. And job creation. Cloud computing is expected to create 1 million jobs in the US also. So when technology changes, everything changes. And maybe 20 years from now, most of today's jobs will disappear. And we will have jobs that we have no idea how they will be. And an indicator of knowledge economy is the price of exported goods. It is not always true, but gives an idea. Because if you add high value, then you can command high price, and you can get a very good profit from that. For example, car, very cheap, $28 per kilogram. Tablets, $500 per kilogram. But for example, a chemical, erythropoietin, it is $27 billion per kilogram.
Wow.
It is a biotechnology, high tech. Maybe I'm sure you know this. It is used in the treatment of cancer, whatever. So this shows again, where the money is and the technology there. Or Turkey commissioned 2 satellites, Japan, and you can see the price of the satellites, 74,000 per kilogram. And if you look at the materials, copper, plastic, this and that, no more than a few dollars per kilogram. So why is the difference? $74,000 and $10. That technology and also the ability to build it. Again, this is knowledge economy. If you look at the human beings are different from animals because human beings change. So this is our nature. So humans are called intelligent, talking, social, economic beings. But I think the crucial item here is they are changing beings. And if a person doesn't change, then he is not really truly human. So this will continue. Now, if we come back after this introduction to Islamic world, there is no question about what we should be. Let's say OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, 57 nation union there. And in 2003, it developed Vision 1441 Hijri, corresponding to 2020. And it is called Declaration on Science and Technology for Economic Well-being of the Ummah. So this represents the Islamic world, and they acknowledge that the Muslim world is facing a knowledge gap because of its deficiency in science, technology, and innovation, and set as a goal to achieve 14% of world scientific output and 1.4% of GDP spent on R&D. That is, we need to do more R&D. Right now, we do a third of it, and the scientific output is not that much. And in 2005, in Jeddah, this is reiterated by OIC, and OIC pledged to make science and technology high priority, and called upon member states to spend 1% of GDP on R&D by 2015. Clearly, this goal will not be met, because 2015 is around the corner, and we are not even close. Now, if you look at, let's say, the state of the science, technology, innovation of the 57 state Islamic world, these 57 states, it is about 1.5 billion people, and that comprise 21% of world population. So if, let's say, we are the average, we should have 21% of average. Now look at the numbers. We have the world GDP of only 6.8%. So only 1/3. That means Muslims are poor compared to the world average, not the US or Japan. And then look at the R&D expenditure, not 20%, 2.4%. And then look at the researchers, number of people, 10%, but not bad. At least, we are half the average there. And then publication, 5.9%. And patents should be 21% if we are average. It is like application 1.7% and patents granted 1.5%. So this map, I think that picture shows that in science and technology, we are not a player. That is, we don't exist in world picture. Forget about US, Japan, or other countries. The world average, we are not in that picture. Obviously, we need to change. And the OECD countries, they spend 0.5% of their GDP on R&D. The world average is 2%. So it's about a quarter. And also, the annual high technology exports of the 57 OECD countries is $75 billion last year. The 57 countries, and then Apple alone does much more than that. That is, one company established by a Kurdish Grabout, is doing more high technology than the entire 1.5 billion Islamic world. So this is, I think, a shame. We need to change. Now, this is a graphic representation of what I said. So I will pass these and some details. I kept this kind of long so that later on you can, I think, examine this with more time. And look at the patents, the number of patents of the countries. Again, Japan, US, China, Korea, they really dominate. So it's a very good measure. If you look at Turkey, it is really like Japan is 200,000 or US, Turkey is 1,000. So this is no comparison. And we also have like 6,000 by the foreigners, not domestic. And high technology exports, I mentioned 75 billion. 82% is from Malaysia, and then about 8% Indonesia. So if you don't consider those two countries, Malaysia and Indonesia, then the Islamic world, the 55 countries, really have no high-tech export, including Turkey. And again, if you look at the companies, the most innovative companies, 2012, see the listing here. Apple is number one, and then Google, 3M, Samsung, whatever. No, I think, surprises there. But this was an interesting comparison. Steve Jobs, his father is a Syrian, and he could really grow up in Syria. And you can imagine if anything, the world would know him or not. But one country, Syria, 23 million people, and the GDP is 60 billion, and Steve Jobs' company, the annual sales of $109 billion. So one person generates more income than one country. So this shows the importance of having the environment for such people to really flourish and have an opportunity. So that system is important. And university. One university, Stanford University, if their graduates were a country, the companies that Stanford graduates formed, that country would have a GDP of $2.7 trillion. It would be the 10th largest economy in the world. So that also shows that one good university in a country can really be worth like in a world, the entire Islamic world. So it is not like one person or one university. Oops, what happened?
Such. Bir saniye hocam, ben şey yapayım.
Basically, you are saying that we should grow more Steve Jobs in this country.
Doğru yerdeyiz.
Maybe not. Let me see. Go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right here.
Or
Yes.
find American-
We should have the environment. Otherwise, we cannot. I come to that. Yes.
Okay.
I come to that. And let's say the universities. Look at the U.S. universities. The income from licensing in billions, and then patents in thousands. New companies, new commercial products, hundreds. So unless the universities are active this way, and if you look at the Islamic world, including Turkey, you don't see that level of activity, not even close. But they make a big difference there. And the good universities attract innovative firms. That is that they start having an ecosystem. If let's say there are no good universities, the good companies will not come there because they cannot find the people. And a must, I think, for success is the proper climate or the science, technology, innovation ecosystem. It is just like, let's say, a greenhouse. Typically, again, we are materialists because, let's say, if you grow plants, what do you need? We will say, okay, we need, fertilizer, water, this and that. But what is most important is the proper climate. That is, unless the temperature, humidity, and the sun is there, you may have the best seed, the best fertilizer, the best things, and the most money, it will be worth nothing. It's exactly the same thing for R&D. Unless you have a good, I think, level of freedom, democracy, freedom of expression, so that the creativity is developed. Unless you have a safe environment, if let's say people are scared, they feel oppressed, you don't have the environment, again the creativity will not develop there. Unless you have a culture of respecting differences, and unless you have a culture of risk-taking, and all of these are a must, then you cannot succeed in R&D. If you look at, let's say, the countries that are successful, you will see that all the ingredients are in place there. From New York Times, Thomas Friedman really puts it together. He says, America is the greatest engine of innovation that has ever existed, and it can't be duplicated anytime soon, so it may change in the future, because it is a product of multiple factors. And he mentions extreme freedom of thought, emphasis on independent thinking, steady immigration of new minds, risk-taking culture with no stigma attached to trying and failing, non-corrupt bureaucracy, and financial markets and a venture capital system that are unrivaled at taking new ideas and turning them into global products. And if, let's say, you take one of those ingredients out, probably the system fails. So this is really a wholesome system. And if, let's say, we try to do just few of them, I think we will not get results, or the result will be very small. We have to look at the entire package together, and look at, let's say, the universities in the U.S. They examine the top universities that generate patents, and this is the result: 76% of the patents they are generated by foreigners. Again, the importance of I think getting the best mind. So let's say when we are in this undertaking, if let's say we limit ourselves, and unless let's say we involve in this, the Christians, the Buddhists, the atheists, unless we are with them and have their help, forget it. We cannot be competitive. Silicon Valley. Now I see countries, forming Silicon Valleys. I think they are really wasting their time. It is not the land. What makes Silicon Valley? It is the creative minds there. It says the Silicon Valley is just the ground of brain power and creative thinking, not the source. And if you look at the source, again you are mistaken. And look at again the bottom line: 52% of the companies in Silicon Valley, they are formed by foreigners. Again, the importance of environment, that is being the center of attraction there. Now let's come to funding. Unless we have funding, we cannot facilitate innovation. And there are many mechanisms. For example, Google is concentrating on driverless cars, spending a lot of money on it. And then in the US, Department of Energy, again, specific targets, like artificial leaves, we mentioned in the morning, and then car batteries, electric vehicles like Tesla, etc. And then there are very good mechanisms we certainly can learn from. I will not give any detail here, like NSF and IH, even to be here. and the European framework programs, Eureka, etc. We also took advantage of the best international funding practices, so we cannot reinvent the wheel, no need for that. And we must make sure that we have a dynamic ecosystem, and we should consider anything from conception of ideas to really having a product or result at the end. And if, let's say, on funding, we look at the amount, again, the world population, 21% Muslim world, but spending on R&D, 2.4%. Certainly, we need to invest a lot of money on science and technology. And if you look at the ratio, I said the world average 2%, Turkey is 0.84%, but look at Saudi Arabia, 0.08%. That means Saudi Arabia puts no money on R&D. It is not on their map. Kuwait, same way, and then Qatar and United Arab Emirates, they are, I think, much better. But again, we need obviously to change that mentality and look at the world, the numbers. Okay, this is the detail for the Islamic countries, R&D spending of different countries there, and look at the companies. Let's say Toyota spends like $10 billion a year on R&D. Let's say medicine, Roche, Pfizer, and Novartis. Look at the numbers. They spend about 10%. I mean, about 10 billion each on R&D, and 20% of their income roughly. So it is no surprise that they dominate the pharmaceutical markets. So unless you are willing to invest in this in a way which is competitive with these numbers, then you don't stand a chance, because it's a small world. And look at one university in the US spending like $2 billion a year on R&D, just one university. This is more than Tübitak's budget, the entire, let's say, country. Yeah, so we need a targeted R&D fund. We cannot do everything. And the way, let's say, US does, for example, DOE, since I'm in the energy field. And look at, let's say, the approach here. They are developing car batteries for electric hybrid cars. But they are not saying, friends, let's get together, do this. It is not like, a small project with friends. Look at the team that won the competition, $120 million for 5 years, 5 universities, 4 national labs, 4 industrial partners like Dow Chemical, Johnson Controls, etc. And then 120 individuals from the other universities. So they formed a team which is really the best possible. And then behind it, long-term funding, and then crystal objectives, target. Okay, we want to develop this. So you look at this, this is a winning team. So this is hikmah. Unless, let's say, you do this, you cannot really compete with this kind of environment. Electric cars, another, let's say, form of funding. They had a good idea for electric cars, and this Tesla company was formed in 2003. And the government said, okay, now I back you up with $500 million. Loan the money. And it is possible that it would fail. $500 million would evaporate. Fine. But if, let's say, some of these ventures are successful, it will do, I think, good for the country and the world. But in this case, they paid their debt this year. That is a very successful company, Tesla. And right now, maybe, on electric car, again, US will dominate the world with products like this. That is, doing the right thing, taking the risk, and then putting the proper support there. Let's say the leaves, artificial leaves, sunlight to fuel. Again, Department of Energy puts $122 million into research for that. And then look at this one, high-risk energy projects, $400 million. It is a project that has very little chance of success. Very little chance of success. But if, let's say, 1 out of 100 projects succeed, it is worth it. So this is the approach. And even these are not enough. Sometimes, let's say, you need really, you don't have the time to spend 20 years to catch. Most of you cannot catch. In that case, what China is doing is acquiring. And this is the best time for acquisitions because of the economic crisis. Let's say many companies in Germany, in the US, they are acquired by Chinese. So let's say 2 days ago, you heard that Microsoft acquired Nokia for $7.2 billion. And look at the bottom line, $2.2 billion to license its patents. So again, intellectual property there. So let's say if you have the money and the resources, and if let's say you want to have quick start, certainly this is an option there. Education component is very important. Right now, let's say in our countries, this is China example, it is test-based. That is memorizing knowledge and then spitting it out to get a grade. This is really worthless. China made the decision to switch to the US system. And it says, the obsession with testing severely hampers student development as a whole person, stunts their healthy growth, limits opportunities to cultivate social responsibilities, creative spirit, and practical abilities in students. A lot of bad things. And I think I will out of time, so I'll wrap it up. If let's say we want to take advantage of our brains there, certainly we should expose the diaspora in the US and Europe, and we should not forget those. And we should really also go where the brain and the environment is. Let's say, why is Samsung today so successful? Because Samsung has good facilities in Silicon Valley. Because he cannot get the brain to Korea, so Samsung goes to where the brains are. It is where it hires Americans, Turkish people, whatever, even Koreans. So this is, let's say, another option that we should explore. So the goal is, of course, to have autonomous vehicles. Okay, let's pass this. Let's say a lot of things to, let's say, new lighting technology. It doesn't have a product. Let's say Facebook. Just a new service, and you take the world by storm. Let's say if you find a solution to traffic congestion, like in Istanbul, the cost in the US is under $15 billion. In Istanbul, it is estimated like $3 billion. So a new, let's say, process, again, will do wonders. Even food, let's say KFC. Again, started with an innovation in cooking, and the result is right now 500,000 employees, $10 billion revenue in 155 countries. That is, developing a new food is no small innovation. Or let's say the biggest store, Amazon, nothing. No store, nothing. And that is the biggest shopping center in the world. In Turkey, let's say the Çiçek has no flowers. Sells, other people's flowers to the entire country there. And let's say in Islam, Islamic finance. It is as one area that we did research. And certainly became a bit, good products. So let's say in social sciences, if let's say we put the creative minds together, certainly we can get results there. And with cooperation, I'll finish. Teamwork is very important. Look at the companies. BMW, Toyota, they are competitors, but for higher research, they work together, because that way the cost becomes manageable. Again, similarly, Ford, Daimler, and Nissan, they do the same thing. The Europe's framework program, it's about 50 billion program. The entire European countries work together because they know that if they work by themselves, they cannot compete with the US or other power houses there. This is like, football. Right now, the science and technology has no boundaries. If, let's say, you want to be successful, you really have to have an international team. Otherwise, I will have only Turkish people or Saudis in my team, no one else. You fail. I mean, it is that clear. And let me just end with this remark from Said Nursi. He says, in the future, mankind will turn to sciences and learning. It will obtain all its power from sciences. Power and rule will then pass to the hands of sciences and knowledge. And the jihad side of it. In the future, in place of weapons, the immaterial moral source of true civilization, material progress, and truth and justice will defeat and scatter the enemies. All believers are charged with upholding the word of God, and at this time, the most effective means of doing this is material progress. For the Europeans are crushing us under their tyranny with the weapons of science and industry. We shall therefore wage jihad with the weapons of science and industry on ignorance, poverty, and conflict, the worst enemies of upholding the word of God. And Einstein says, it has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity. And I think this is where Islam comes to the picture, because Islam is grand humanity, so it will remove this concern there. So let me just quote Obama and end my presentation. As a student of history, I also know civilization's debt to Islam. It was Islam at places like Al-Ahsar that carried the light of learning through so many centuries, paving the way for Europe's Renaissance and Enlightenment. It was innovation in Muslim communities that developed the order of algebra, our magnetic compass, and tools of navigation, our mastery of pens and printing, our understanding of how disease spreads and how it can be cured. So I think the last word is, we have done this before, so we know how to do it. Certainly we can do it again. Thank you very much.
First of all, I'd like to thank you very much for Brother Sadi and NAM Corporation for taking this initiative. And I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this start and to have it thus until the day of judgment. And hopefully this will be a good initiative for all Muslims. So my talk, as the topic implies, will be medicine, and I'd like to share some of my thoughts with you. Okay. So obviously, one of the vital areas of research is medical research, and there is an ongoing need for new drugs and technologies with extraordinary cost. And most of the healthcare expensive, vast majority of it, I should say, expenses in the Muslim world go to Western R&D costs in billions of dollars. What I mean with that is that actually Professor Chenga had given very nice examples. Erythropoietin, 1 kilo was $2.7 million. Indeed, when you look at a medication, for example, the companies, pharmaceutical companies, make so much money, and that money is made by countries like us. And but indeed, when you look at the actual cost, most of this is R&D actually. So therefore, end result of this is which is a high cost of medicine, a very basic unit of having the right to actually medicine or medical to face the medical needs of people. It is really very expensive. So healthcare throughout the world is an increasing concern. Even in countries like the United States, they are trying to find alternative ways to pay the costs. And in our Muslim countries, especially the more needy or poor countries, facing that cost is impossible. And unfortunately, the end result is, you only get high quality healthcare if you have, certain amount of money. So beyond the need of the R&D in medicine for the fact that we should dominate in this field, there's an actual situation to actually provide good healthcare. We need to turn the R&D towards our countries, otherwise we will have to continue to pay high cost. And actually, if you look at this slide, which shows the net profits of top 11 global drug companies, as you see, in 2012, it was about $85 billion. These are just drug companies, and some of them. So there is, and this is the profit they are making. So the spending that we make actually is going to their R&D. Obviously, then when we talk about the Islamic world and R&D in medicine in our field, we have to think about the methodology that is used in those places. There are lots of areas. This is just a few examples, actually, like embryonic cell research, use of haram materials in products such as alcohol or pork products. So we have a significant dependency on these products on Western countries, and unfortunately, some of the things that are not actually Islamically valid we have to still utilize them because we don't have alternatives. So when we think about R&D in medicine, this should be one of our major goals to make sure our R&D efforts go in line with the Islamic values, basic Islamic values. Otherwise, our dependency on these countries, on Western countries, will continue like this. So we need to find solutions for actually developing better efforts like this, hopefully this initiative. And I think you have to be really very strong. I think Professor Chenga's talk was elegantly putting this in perspective. I don't think, for example, Turkey alone or Saudi Arabia alone can do this. This has to be a multinational, multi-central effort, and we also have to think about poorer Islamic countries. We need to support them. They also need to start with R&D actually. And we have to keep in mind that we can save significantly if we start producing products in Muslim countries, as in the example of medical products. And we can even export and make money out of them. So establishing a multinational plan requires a very careful, obviously, vision and mission determination, as hopefully like in this initiative. And we have to establish a fund, which looks like this initiative will do it. But I think it has to be really a non-profit one, and it has to grow in itself as in a situation in Waqf or in foundation. And since my field is medicine, I have to think about our poor countries where they cannot even find drugs. So we have to support the medical needs of the poorer countries, and I think a fund like this can start doing it. So ultimate goal should be more become like a foundation which is growing in itself. Again, if you look at especially the pharmaceutical companies, the research that the money they spend is unbelievable amounts. But this is so because they make so much more money. We have to think about it. They're not, spending that much R&D money because they have so much money. Because they spend this much money because they have more money that they make, and actually that's how they put this money in. So therefore, the return of investment is significant in medical research, and therefore, if you think about how a research project starts, for example, in the United States, it could be medical. Usually, there are some agencies which support research, but the ultimate gain is actually a commercial gain, because that company or that university starts making money out of that patent, and so they make it for profit, and they continue for profit with a commercial intention rather than a non-profit really intention, which shouldn't be the case in a fund like this. So one study in US showed that drug companies are spending more than twice of their money on marketing, advertising, and administration than they do on research and development. They need to market, they need to advertise, because they need to make more money. But as you see, this is a huge amount of their spending, which is not the case in a fund like this. In an Islamic fund, your whole actually motivation is going to be basically serving the people, and non-profit foundation actually therefore can not only lower the healthcare costs, for example, in Muslim countries, but also will be more competitive. So, for example, if you develop a product, it will be available in Muslim countries at a cheaper price, but also when you export it, the money that you can make, actually, since you're going to be spending less in some other areas because you don't have the same profit intention, alternatively, you will be quite competitive actually, as long as your product is high quality, of course. I'm assuming that part. And so we have to really turn this into a real Vakıf or foundation mentality. I think people working for this fund or foundation should keep that in mind. The other area that I want to point out in that brief talk is when we think about medicine, obviously we see what we see. Indeed, not about 7 years ago, medicine was very different. In about when the World War II started, pharmaceutical companies, especially U.S. Western countries, started to be strong. When they started to be strong, they started to gain shares from the medical schools in the United States. The education system, the medical education system in the US was very different at the onset of the 20th century. So there was much more role of alternative medicine, as we call it today. Even that term has problems, actually, alternative medicine, because they make it as if this is something different. Indeed, this is something that's ignored. Yes, thousands, 2,000 years of Chinese medicine, things like acupuncture or herbal medicine, Now there is some gain of strength in these areas, and the reason is actually, if you look at it, not because this is coming from the medical education, but this is coming from the people. People are looking for alternatives because they think this new medication or this new drug has some toxic side effects. They have less belief in the companies, in medical companies. So they are turning back and looking back and they are turning at their alternatives and actually they're looking at history. And I think the alternative medicine in general field is growing very significantly because of that. Otherwise, if you go back and look at the healthcare companies or medical schools, they are very skeptical about alternative medicine because they cannot make money out of it. For example, if you show black seed is very helpful in this situation, or some of the herb is very helpful in this situation, black seed or an herb is something that you can go and buy from the market. So it's not a patented product of a specific company. You can't make money out of this. So a fund like this can only actually reliably produce products that are actually low cost but also high quality because the main, again, theme is the non-profit. Of course, there are other areas that need to be researched on with this Islamic focus. For example, as we know from Hadith, fasting is very effective in healing some diseases. Cupping, hijama is actually a very important field. I know in Syria, for example, before the war, there were some initiatives on some research, and they showed very significant health benefits of hijama or cupping in hajama. And similarly, black seed, there have been some studies on animals, but limited studies showing extraordinary health benefits, especially on the immune system. So therefore, when we develop research ideas through such a fund, we should also keep these in mind, that we shouldn't only look with an eye of a Westerner. So only with that we can start to change slowly the impact of the negative impact of healthcare companies on dictating the therapeutic guidelines. So again, back to the change in the education system in the US, after pharmaceutical companies started to actually buy shares of medical schools in the United States in the years about 1930, 1940, the whole education system changed. That's why the current doctors, when they look at it, they look skeptical to the alternative medical field, unlike 100 years ago. So some of this I think you have shown. We probably took it from similar resources. Just shows the share of the total spending on R&D. Obviously, I think we are in the rest of the world, which is 3.3%. we really need to spend, and this is another nice figure just showing the share of different companies. On the x-axis is the R&D by percent of GDP, and then million people, scientists, engineers per million people on the y-axis. And this is with a specific actually focus on the life sciences. And again, it's showing the huge R&D expenditures from different companies. As you see, probably, if not all, most of them are US companies. And if, below, the green bars show the R&D spending in $1 billion in US in life sciences, and about 50% continues to be only from the US. But again, if they are able to spend that much money, that's only because they can make more money. We shouldn't forget that. So, and this is some of the key life science technology development areas in 2014. Stem cell applications, which was only a dream 10 years ago, now is one of the major players. And some other areas. But in general, if you look, biomarkers, genetically modified agriculture, stem cell applications, so biotechnology has a huge share now in the current life sciences R&D. So in summary, I think it is obvious that there are significant benefits of establishing an Islamic fund and foundation. We have to focus in medicine, and I think with the money that is generated through this fund, the fund can be supported because it's going to be a non-profit fund. But the initial initiatives, the startup projects, should be very carefully chosen. And I think this fund can support itself, especially in a field like medicine, because significant money can be made. Yeah, and I think it is obvious that in a fund like this, all steps should be in accordance with Quran and Sunnah, and you know, there has to be a fiqh committee, I think, to guide us in such a fund or foundation to make sure we play, you know, with the rules of Islam, not with a Western mind. So I would like to make this short. This is a huge topic. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for organizing such an interesting event. Inshallah, it will lead to very successful results. When Dr. Tufekci called me on Monday, I learned that there will be a Islamic funding discussion for establishing a funding in first starting with Muslim countries, maybe collaborating with global scientists. So it's very exciting to me because I have been visiting a bunch of Muslim countries, especially like Emirates in 2009, Egypt in 2010, just before the revolution. I've been having some discussions with some of the Muslim researchers who are educated in the US and saying that is there any way that we could just start some joint research between us? And I was thinking about Islamic organization with Ecumenic Islam always the leading, and of course there was nothing over there, so nothing came out. So it was one of the things that I would like to share, and hopefully now more organization activity is going to grow and it's going to lead to a sustainable research. The second thing that I would like to share with you is I came to US in 2011 August. My return story from US started around 2008 basically. One day when I was going to the research center, my home and research center was away around like half a mile away from driving. I was thinking about what I have done in US, what I have achieved, what Allah gave me so far, what can I do in the future. I was thinking about, I almost felt that I didn't learn everything in US. Now it's time for me to go back and reveal those information with others and grow young people or old people, maybe grow new industries. Of course, we are too late to be a Steve Jobs, but we can still grow some Steve Jobs around. So it was a good motivation. It took me about 2 years to come back and start something in Turkey. Of course, we have learned that, or we have seen that Turkish funding scheme has been changing. A lot of opportunities in Turkey that we could grow and we could do things. Of course, Professor Çengel showed bunch of items, probably 5 key items, and if one of them is missing, you cannot do anything. Or you have to really suffer through. I mean, you don't really see these entities when you're in the US, how it's in Turkey. When you come here, you can actually feel it and read it. It's not the perfect, but it's growing in the right direction. At least you can talk and try to look at things to make it better. So anyways, with all that said is, I came back, I started a group at Özyeğin University. The reason I chose that Özyeğin University among a few other options is, it's like an American university, one way or another. At least in our College of Engineering, we do have 40 faculty. Everybody came from US. A lot of them are younger than me. I'm 43 years old. I'll be 44 soon, inshallah. And everybody came from US. At least you know what expectations are. They all worked in, they got degrees from Turkish universities, very good engineering degrees, went to US, got PhDs in top schools, and worked there a few years, came back here. They know the work attitude or ethics, as Professor Şengel was saying, that ethics in the West is quite nice. Structures and standards are quite nice compared to this part of the world. So I feel like almost I'm working in an American institution, though there's still Turkish people over there. We still experience that. Anyways, with all that said, this is a center that Dr. Tüfekçi and I have been leading, trying to put together a global research center. Not just Turkish. We have people from US, people from China, people from Korea, and right now, and then a lot of Turkish people, of course, try to get together scientists, engineers, companies even together. A lot of Turkish companies on advanced electronics and LEDs, let's say Vestel and Farba Holding, or companies like GE and 3M are part of this organization. I'm trying to put together, do something, not just for Turkey, just do something for the whole humanity. We have to do it together. And my motto, my ex-rector, and then one guy from Turkish National Council, Yok, came to my lab, and I told him, take this group from this university and put it in Stanford. It will not be any different. It will function the same way it is functioning now. And it will not have any problems because the quality of students are good. I have Iranian students, I have Pakistani students, and I have Turkish students, of course. I have German-grown Turkish students. I mean, it's a good mix of people. And soon, what I will say is my group, what I will say I'm achieved is, if I can get postdocs from MIT or Oxford, I will say yes. We're at that point, inshallah. When Dr. Tüfekçi called me, I really didn't know much about the discussions. I'll put some of my experiences here. I don't have a lot of time. One night I will wake up, 3 a.m., I will do whatever I can draft here. So if I have any typos, please excuse me. I call this X-funding also. I'm not going to call it Islamic funding because we have to look for the best achievable thing here. You can call it Islamic or Christian or Mehmet funding, doesn't matter. X funding should be our ideal funding scheme, which we know they have basic values anyways. It shouldn't be changing anyway. So how can we develop, execute, and sustain that funding scheme? That's what I'm looking for here. Though I will excuse these few slides, but we can have a lot more discussions around it. I'm sure I forget a lot of things, but let me share some of my thoughts here. Okay, this is a disclaimer about my presentation. Of course, I like to write proposals, go after advanced technology. I like to deep think. I'm not a perfection, anything I can do in terms of technology. So what I do here, I like to go after large grants basically. That's do something which is different. Do something what Steve Jobs did for people. That's what I would like to do. Also, I really like to spend a lot of money. I spent, I'm not going to count my PhD years, but GE and Turkey, I spent over $20 million so far. 13 years. I didn't make that much money. I wish I had taken 10% of it, but I cannot take that much. In Turkey, you cannot take that much. In US too. Of course, I'm not expert in establishing grants or funds basically, but I can put my thoughts on how it should be put together. Of course, I will few ideas I will be sharing with the next few slides here. So with all that said, let's start with that. I guess also I would like to limit my I would like to warn you that my expertise in the GE and my graduate education is on energy, medical, electronics, and defense systems. So I'm not expert in medical field, for example. A friend that I'm listening to them, but those fields I have actually worked in the actual technology developments that you even not seeing in the market. In the 5-10 years later, you will see in the market basically. So I'm gonna be putting together the story around those fields. When I talk about technology is around these practical systems basically. So there are three parts, major parts of the puzzle that we have to put together and think together. As Dr. Chengal was saying, 5 pieces. You cannot just take one, 4 perfect, 1 poor, not gonna work. All together has to work together. So major source of grants, I'll talk about US, basically my experience in US primarily and some in Turkey. How to establish grants with those, and intellectual property, basically protection. We'll talk about sustainability afterwards. Of course, there are 2 things, plus 3. Let's start with this one. Technologies, or the manpower, is really the most critical one. That what we are suffering here, probably our Muslim brothers in Arabic countries, like Saudi Arabia, 0.8% spending, is suffering more. So when I was at GE, I was able to get anything I want. If I want to develop a technology, I call material scientists, physicists, chemists, even doctor, associate, mathematician, mechanical. I call 10 people, the best of best. They come, we discuss, and we just can come up with a closure. In Turkey, I cannot do that. Well, even I cannot do that because of the culture sometimes. What is the culture? The center that we are putting together, I invited 12 professors, very young professors, very highly qualified schools. The culture sometimes change them. They don't have the same work culture as US we have been doing basically. It's different. But again, out of 12, we can get 7 good of them. So this group is going to grow because I don't know every good people in Turkey. However, grown engineers, researchers are lacking in Turkey. And it's even worse probably in some of the other Muslim countries. But we don't have to have a million people, we just have some good people. It's just a starting. A lot of people are interested in growing themselves. That we can help them out to grow. We cannot teach research at the schools. We cannot give a class on how to do research. Just being a researcher or innovative is from your heart and brains. It's a God-given thing. You cannot make a person innovative. It's just a God-given thing. You can start following through at a certain level, but it's just going to be God-given. However, you can help. Infrastructure. In Turkey, over the last 1 year, I think what I'm going through is a good example. I spent about $1 million. And I hold around $2 million right now. So I think we can grow that money, which is great. If I was a professor in US, in about 1 year, I cannot attract $2 million probably. Professor Schengen knows for that. But here, I can attract that. I can buy the good equipment. My GE lab is not better than my Özyeğin lab. So I can put a good lab here. Can get good equipment, good books, information all over. Google is there anyways. I am here. I can teach in Stanford. I can teach here. I am here. I can drive the group. Instead of GE, I am here. So I talk to my students. I say, everything is here. Equipment, beautiful lab, beautiful university. I am here. Now it's you.
Even GE is here.
Even GE is here.
Bringing their research.
Yes, GE wants to work with us. They have been discussing for the last 4 months. They want to work with us basically. They want to support us. Okay. So now the people, students are. I tell them, if you don't publish, for example, 2 conference papers, like IEEE is very important in our field, 2 conferences, you can't graduate. I don't care if rector comes and says making it. I don't care. You cannot. PhD, 2 journal papers, 3 conference papers. You cannot. You're out. I have, for example, 2 PhD students. They both publish 2 papers in year first 6. And I have students from Middle Technical University, MIT of Turkey. They finished master's degree, but they haven't published anything. Even they haven't presented anything. I have a research engineer that's working with me. I put her into a presentation recently, a small workshop. She was so shy. She wasn't really sure about what she can do. And she went and did it. And she admits that, yes, this is a great experience. And later, she will grow even bigger, with or without me. That's important. So technologies, we are missing. Infrastructure, we have it in Turkey. I think this can be grown among the other countries, Muslim countries, no problem. Of course, everything, there is no free lunch. It's with money. You really have to have resources here. So what is the outcome? All these technologies. For my group, of course, we cannot do everything. Our goal is, can we, for example, one of the goals that we are working on, can I cool iPhone 6? Can I do that? Instead of having a US company is doing that, or US group is doing that, research group, my group can develop a cooling technology for that. Or with Celal Hocam, we are developing a new LED technology that Siemens or Philips or Osram cannot do it today. Can we do it? Well, we have the brain power, we have everything, can we do it? That's the goal. If you have this kind of goals, I think we can achieve. At least we can try, believe and try. Inshallah, it's gonna come to a very nice outcome. So anyways, in US, if you look at, these are, I don't have statistical values or real solid references, but this is my thoughts from my GE experience. So major source of funding in US is government basically. Department of Energy that Professor Şengel showed in the slides, that next generation batteries or storage technology, or how can I harvest the solar energy, or can I improve the car technology by having thermoelectrics basically, or DARPA. DARPA is very important in the US. You know who invented internet? DARPA. Who invented navigation system or gyroscopes? DARPA basically. They spend a lot of money. A lot of money. This is really spinning off a lot of technologies. So that becomes the big thing. NIST or NIH or some sources basically. There are a lot of local sources too. For example, NYSERDA is local sources. For example, Istanbul Development Agency, which is similar to what New York State Energy Research Agency. They do want to develop that particular region. Have some sort of a funding which is around 10%. For example, in Turkey is interesting. Turkey has National Science Foundation, we call TÜBİTAK, and Defense, Undersecretary of Defense basically, and Department of Science and Technology. Those are basically major sources of funding here. And of course, European funding, a lot of 50-some billion dollars, euros belki, in one sense, but we don't get a lot of this money in Turkey. And TÜBİTAK is pushing people, get more money. What can I do? Next week I'll go to a meeting to TÜBİTAK, get more Turkish researchers to get more money for Turkey basically. But there are resources over there we could get. Of course, there are a lot of private funds, and if I look at this, for example, in US, a lot of funds are going from the companies basically. Those are basically companies like GE or Intel are working on a specific problem. And we have been, for example, supporting Stanford University Clean Energy Research just $5-10 million between 2006 and 2009, with a bunch of other places. We join those consortiums and give money, but it doesn't have to be that big. It can be still small. I want to develop certain thing and certain professor has it, I'll give $200,000-300,000. We do that basically in US. In Turkey, probably this is much less than 5% because industry is not ready for R&D yet. They're just wait, and we have been discussing with a couple of companies, including, for example, National Defense Department, as well as, for example, Borusan Holding. Even you agree after 15 months, you cannot push forward. Okay, the culture is not there yet here. Okay, of course, non-profit funds for technology in US, there are some small funds available. In Turkey, I'm not aware of any funds that we can go and get money basically. Maybe there are some, but it's very, very small, negligible amounts basically. Let's talk about the funding types. Short-term funding, which is a small, short amount of time, less than 18 months basically, which is basically advancing a small part of the system, developing a new app for the iPhone, which is going to do a beautiful job for, and you can sell it, and solving a particular problem that, for example, if I have a problem that I want to improve some modifications in my system, change the electronics, change the capacitor, it's a small problem. Those are like around probably $300,000 per year type stuff. And then if you go to mid-term funds, 18 months to 5 years, which is basically gonna be, instead of 300, about $1 million type stuff basically, which is advancing a major part of the system. If you have a gas turbine basically, what you would like to do is you want to change the low pressure part or high pressure part, or if you want to change the blade foil shape, or if you want to do internal cooling, you want to improve some of these features, improve the efficiency 0.1%, it's going to be a huge amount of money. Or come up with new technology. Can you really come up with new LED technology in the next 5 years basically, which is quite larger amount of funding. I mean, of course, long-term funds, which is more than $3 million, when you have, of course, large consortiums like $120 million, those started coming up recently. Usual DOE grants are $2-3 million when I was at GE basically. DARPA grants $5-6 million, which is 4 or 5, maybe 3-4 years. When you have large consortiums, I mean, in one sense, I can look back or experience. Money is not everything. Money is not well managed in the US as well. I mean, I look at a lot of internal GE funds, GE soft money, or external funds, a lot of problems over there. I mean, 120 million is not going to get them the best. If I can assure that half of these teams, which we also did say at GE, you can really trash out. I mean, not bad, but it's useless. I mean, you have to have the right people in the team, right amount, right resources, but don't restrain with the money. Just get them good money, get them good people, good infrastructure, let them go. So those technologies are, I call this groundbreaking technology, or game changers basically. So if you look at that, those are for the companies, SBIR grants. In Turkey, entrepreneurship is really highly supported right now by the universities. Every professor should have their own company. I don't know what good it does, what bad it does, but we can discuss that. But small companies, 3-4 people, 5-10 people, or DOE, DARPA programs for the midterm, or large grants, again DARPA and RPE grants. In fact, we could really focus this towards RPE. RPE started by President Obama around 2004-5 to 2006. Basically, RPE was there before DARPA, what I have been hearing. Then they turned into DARPA, focused on projects, smaller projects, then started RPA again. So those are different funding schemes. We can talk about some of those, but this is what I have been seeing. Okay, so let's talk about the proposal technology ideas. We cannot do everything. Well, of course, there's a hikmah over there, but we have only 24 hours, certain amount of energy. We are not Superman, so we cannot do everything. So we just have to have focus areas that we can do. And we shouldn't go and do the gas turbine. We shouldn't go and do the car in Turkey. We should do energy storage, because we talk about iPhones that's draining 6 hours, 5-6 hours. How about if I make an iPhone which is going to be drained in the next 5 days, basically? What if that would be really nice, basically? What if I can put that little battery into my car that goes like 1 day? Why not? I mean, why not we are working these kind of technologies? Why not we are working on an LED lamp that's gonna be saving energy? We are not wasting energy like here. We can have any beautiful color. We will be more effective, more efficient. I can talk best word because I can get the light color. I can also even treat myself by getting the best color. This kind of stuff basically game changers that others are not doing. Of course, it's important that we have to work global. That's for sure. I mean, you cannot just say, I would not say, oh, I don't work with this black person, I don't work with Chinese, I don't work with Christians. Work with the high work ethic people, motivated people, and give everybody right. You can develop a pattern together, there's no problem. You just have to make sure that everybody's right should be there. But work in a circle that industry, academia, and government together. Don't separate them out. Even if you can include, which is hard, Turkish and US government or Saudi Arabia government, work together as long as you know the boundaries for the work that you will be doing. Of course, we talked about that briefly in the first bullet. Define areas of interest. Don't do 100 things in technology. Do some, but do it really good. Be number one. Jack Welch, when he was a GE CEO, he said that I will be only number one or number two in the world. If I'm number 3, I will sell that business. He was very successful. And the current CEO last 13 years didn't do much for the company, but still every year they are making $15 billion net profit. Okay, it's an actual profit company. Okay, so what can we do? We could really establish workshops. We would invite relevant people, attracted highly qualified people for those selected people, and basically we would come up with a specific focus areas basically that we can make a big impact basically. How can I solve water problem in Saudi Arabia? Can I get water basically? Or how can I solve the energy problem in Azerbaijan, for example, rural areas? How can I do that? Those are the specific areas that I think we will be focusing on. So, awarding well-proven ideas or well-promising ideas with less risk, more outcomes, and how do we do the proposals? Of course, usually do a fair and timely evaluation of the proposals. Among this part of the world, we tend to be not very fair sometimes. I like Jalal, he likes me, we just help each other. That's not the good way. If he deserves the job, just give him the job. Don't give because he's a good friend of mine. And 8 to 10 weeks usually in US, that's what's happening. Of course, well-defined project goals, very clear goals. I mean, if you are going to make a new battery for iPhone, if this iPhone goes only 6 hours at 25 degrees Celsius, make it like 8 hours or 10 hours and 25 degrees Celsius. Define the goal. Don't make it, I'll make a battery. In TÜBİTAK, I see some projects today, 1007 projects, large projects. Okay? There are goals. These are like 15, 20, 30, 50 million liras projects, which is some dollars probably. There's no goal here. I want to make the next generation iPad. What is different with your iPad and Samsung Note basically? Okay? So put something that I will make it better than what Samsung is doing today. Don't be, in research, I'm not really shy or I'm not really scared putting those kind of goals. We should work for the highest goal possible. We cannot achieve, we cannot, but we should work with the best way for achieving this basically, okay? Of course, well-planned finances, and in the middle of the project, what's one of the things we have been seeing in the US is never cut the funding in the middle of the project unless it's unsuccessful. You give me X amount of money, I'm doing whatever I can do best, looks promising. Oh well, I made my calculations wrong, I'm gonna cut in the middle. Never do that. This really kills. And GE, we used to do that basically. Sometimes it really kills the whole team. Motivation in the middle of the year basically, though you are successful. And in none of the scheme it should be done. And then, of course, it's a big distraction for the team. Of course, from the funding organization, appoint the right people for the project. Don't appoint because Dr. Arif knows everything. I can't know everything. I know something. Get the best person and work with the team as a integral part of the team. Just make sure that he's a part of the team, not a police over there. Okay. Let's look at the execution. Here, basically, of course, appoint the X person from your team and not a police. He doesn't have a stick that he's gonna. You cannot. Researcher group is a weird group of people. Real researcher, deep think. They really need some sort of a motivation. Just help them out, smooth them a little bit. You are a good person, great person. You can do the best, whatever. Don't make it. You are unsuccessful. You're really worth a piece of shit. That kind of stuff. Excuse my French, but don't do that kind of stuff. Of course, those people qualified, well aware of your schemes and technology, and then the execution technology. Of course, it's well organized and creating really good reports. I don't want 100 pages report. I just need 4 bullet report basically. I have goals, what I have done, what I achieved so far. 100-page report, nobody reads that. In the second page, we fade away. I'm not that smart. I don't have that much patience either. Just make sure that whether that person's working or not, get a short report, executive summary. Just let's make sure that everybody understands what's going on here. Of course, let's check the project goals, milestones, resources, every 6 months perhaps. Okay, not every week, not every month, every 6 months. Make sure that basically projects is aligned with the project goals basically. Aligned doesn't mean that in the next 4 years you will be in the same route. Research, it can really change the shifting around. We did that, and I did that when I was in the US. Here it's a little bit harder to be that, but I can't do that over. I tell them that I was gonna drink coffee, but coffee is killing my stomach. I would like to drink instead. Tea is gonna keep me awake, which they were fine with that. Of course, I didn't say I will drink alcohol. They said that I will be sober. You cannot do your job. So it's fine to have that. Let's make sure that you can do that. Okay. So probably bring that team to the headquarters. If it's not too much expense, you go there, bring them together, and then let's praise them. They are doing a good job. I like your technology. I really want the technology to serve for Muslims and humanity basically. We want to have great scientists from Muslim countries. That's very important for us. Of course, just to create simple, short reports, not like long reports. Slides probably, simple tables I can measure. And you said that you will make 8 hours of battery, but you only achieved today 4 hours, but you still have 2 more years. Fine, perfect. Let's go on and work on it. What is really blocking you? You need money. You need more money. You need more engineers. You need to work with GE or whatever Siemens. Let's make sure that we can help you out. You're a part of the team. An important part of the research in technology is intellectual property protection. I personally wrote about 150 patent applications when I was GE still writing. We are writing here too. I don't know whether I have 50 or 100, but still a lot of patents in the field patents. My name is there. This is very important to protect ideas. We have seen from Professor Shengda that US companies are leading, and Samsung is interestingly coming up really in the top, about 6,000 patents per year. Very important. Even simple ideas can make a differentiator. I'll give you a very simple example. We went to a very large corporate the other day. So I asked my research engineer with master's degree from this Middlesex University, great school. I asked her to do a model of 2 LED lamps side by side, do a simple model. She said that, oh, this is so simple, hocam. I said, it's okay, but why don't you really put them close to each other so that we have waste a lot of light. So we put too much away from each other. In that case, there's dark places. Think about too. And of course, she modeled very quickly. She came up with results. We showed the leaders of the company. They loved it basically. And then Celal hocam saw and he said, wow, this is great. And then she understood that even simple things, maybe this is not patentable of course, simple things may come up with new ideas. Okay? So just make sure that let's protect those. Be aggressive on IP protection. I think funding organizations should help the funded people on the IP protection. You may have your own lawyers and support personnel. That's very important. And then legal help, commercialization helps sometimes. And in this part of the world, I think the small companies and the large companies are not that aggressive. And small companies don't know about IPs, global patent applications, especially US and Europe basically. They would need a lot of help. Commercialization. I have a company of 4 people. We have great technologies. We come up with next generation phones. I don't know how to sell. And I think the NAM-type organization may help in commercialization. I don't want it to be a salesperson, but help to connect with the venture capitalists basically. That might be a good way. Okay. Do US, European world patent type stuff, not local ones. I don't think Turkish patent type stuff is going to protect you well in other countries. Just try. More expensive, but this is something that's very valuable. Okay. But in the research, when I was working in a research center, anything between I think $700 million to $1 billion GE Research Center was spending each year. Just believe or not, only 8 to 10% is actually monetized. The rest is not coming anything out. So you may have 100 patents, only 2 or 3 may be used. The rest may be just protecting a field for you basically. Just don't expect that every single patent is going to make money out of it. Sustainability, I think is a key factor. You keep giving money each year, and this is what we have in Islamic countries, so not the technology funds, but many things. Every Friday in Turkey, they keep asking money. People give 1 or 2 liras, or maybe 5. Some people are rich, 20 liras. Okay? Some people don't give. Every Friday, we keep asking. There's no sustainability in our mosques. How about technology, which is not cheap? We cannot do 200 liras technology. We have to spend more money. Just we have to keep it sustainable, basically. Okay? And nobody has infinite resources. That's for sure. We have to leverage external resources. Okay? And then that fund may be tailored with other external fundings. What is it? For example, very simple. I got TÜBİTAK funding, let's say $100,000 for next 2 years. That funding says, okay, do you need that? I can say, wow, that critical part of the research was not done in this year. Can I get it from you? You can just leverage that kind of part, or you can say, I'll give you 50 if you get 200 from TÜBİTAK. That's perfect. That's for motivation. That will help basically. That 50 you could use for equipment, you could use for students or engineers. That will help basically. You can leverage instead of just giving, oh no, I'll be alone, I'll be doing myself. I think you could really leverage. You can think about it. Even you can say, get funding from US Navy, I will double the funding that you are getting. That's very nice. Okay? So, of course, we should claim back part of the IP. We can. It's with each situation, how do you claim back part of the IP? We talked about the Google type companies, each year making $15–20 billion. If you had some sort of IP like that, and you would really have 1% or even 0.5%, you'd have to make a lot of money. That would be very nice. If you could make sure that a person who's using your funding agrees on the terms, it's fine. And a lot of people would say, okay, why not, basically. Of course, collaborative work, I think a good team is basically, a good team will be team that you would have global people, global brains. If US is leading, they are getting the best of best basically. Cream of the cream, that's for sure. How long it's going to continue, I don't know. However, I'm really hopeful about Turkey. Because Turkey is tapping, and of course, I don't know much about Saudi Arabia or Egypt or the countries, but here I know that. I can attract good students from Pakistan basically. I mean, I have Pakistani students, very sharp, which one more coming soon. And the guy is coming 8 a.m. Saturday morning. And 6 p.m. my foundation leader, Hüsnü Özyen, comes and says, "Oh, this guy is great. He's working there. He's very productive. In the 4 months, he writes the conference paper because he's working there at night." I cannot do the same thing with Turkish student. A Turkish student comes to me, "Can I have 3 days of vacation? What did you achieve so far?" You cannot just yell at them because they're going to be demotivated. But this guy's working, and someday I'm not at school, and someday somebody else comes up, "Wow, I haven't seen your students at school. This is beautiful. Get these students professors." I mean, we did a workshop weeks ago, and we invited global scientists from China, US, Europe. They all came and said, for example, one of them was beautiful from Georgia Tech. Said, "Can we do a joint work together? There's a particular area." He said, "Sure. 2 years here, 2 years there. Why not?" Well, the guy from China, "Can we do it together with China? Why not? Get the best of best." It's not easy to establish a team, but I think collaboration is very nice. Basically, cross-pollination. This is very important in engineering. We like to work with them. We had a tendency to work with the people that in the same. I'm mechanical engineer. I'm energy in Professor Cengiz's energy. We like together. No, at GE it was so important to work with electrical engineers, logistics people, medical doctors, and theologists. Everybody together. I can learn from these people. They will learn from me. And our general manager was saying that 1 + 1 is not 2. It's 3 basically. Okay. Cross-pollination is extremely important. Getting the best in their fields. Especially in those days, getting people from the basic sciences, physics, chemistry, biology is awesome. There are very virgin fields, for example, biotechnology. I think we can make a huge impact. We do have medical doctors. They think like doctor. I think like an engineer. They are very different, 2 different ways of thinking. 180 degrees, honestly. I do solve problems different than what they do. And they know more than I do in medicine and human. We can just really combine together. That will be huge, impactful areas, basically. Of course, constantly growing funding structure is extremely important here. So this is my last slide. I think it's whether you call Islamic or non-Islamic, whatever you want to call, I think it's very similar. You want to make the best, basically. Sustainable funding, I think it's doable. It will be. You can keep pouring the money for next 20 years when you're alive, but when you're not alive, your kids may not do. And hopefully, we can establish something that is going to go, inshallah, from here to the day of judgment. That is possible. And then you really have to collaborate a highly qualified team together. Every school, every place. I want to touch on this bullet 1 minute. For example, I do have friends at MIT. They work with cows basically. And they do have a lot of complaints working together. They give a lot of money from cows to MIT. Billions of dollars. And then they say, "We write a paper, but cows people want to put their name on the paper." In US, we don't do that. In US, even I have 3 people, whoever does work on the research, they put their name. So you just have to get people together, work together, share together. This is possible. I mean, we have to change the culture in a way that high ethical values. We can do it. And this doesn't really belong to one certain group of people or country, but this is possible. Okay? And then key technology areas. Not many, just a few basically. Just focus on a few. And this is fine. And then what is best, I don't know. Whether defense, whether medical, whether energy, maybe pick 1 or 2 from each areas. Just focus on this. Okay? Of course, funding organization should be a part of the team. Very important. Supportive role, but not like vague or slippery, but just make sure that they succeed on their goals basically. Goals are achievable. I cannot just say that I will get your photovoltaic cell in 5 years with 50% efficiency. If I say I'm basically lying to you. People are achieving 20%, I will do my best for 25%. Perfect, fine. If you can do, great. If my background shows that I can achieve, certainly. Of course, help in protecting IP, which is important. I think there should be some returns from the funding organizations like this private organization. Thank you.
Fatih Sultan Mehmet Vakıf Üniversitesi. Tarihin derinliklerinden bilim ve sanatın ufuklarına.